Hey, students. Regarding Module 3, Government Institutions and Policy Actors. First of all, the first discussion had 5 questions, limited student responses to 2 questions plus your colleague comments. Did that because, like I mentioned in the first module, there was a lot of writing, and I didn't want to just overwhelm you with, writing stuff that you didn't necessarily need to do, right? Wrote information. There's no real benefit in that. So what I did was I divided you guys up by, alphabetize your last names, and A through, I think it was H, did, question 2, whatever, you got it. Anyway, here's what I discovered. The media influence question, the first question was easy enough, and I think you guys all cleared that hurdle pretty well. Matter of fact, the first couple, 2, 3 questions were, more basic questions, to be honest. So you guys with last names that were early in the alphabet, you did pretty well, right? Question 4 regarding media influence, the bias that they might have assert, the power they wield. It wasn't contentious, but there were a lot of questions raised. Like, for example, I noticed that only two iterations of the word propaganda. It's kind of weird. I thought that would have probably come up more often, but it didn't. But I did notice that there were 30 times the word bias was used. So, which is not bad. I mean, we all have bias, okay? You have to at least understand that, It doesn't matter how careful I am to try and, not conceal, that's the wrong word, to mitigate bias, it still comes through. So you have to acknowledge it. You have to acknowledge it, and you have to, try your best to guard against it, via wording, whatever. Like I noticed when it was asked if it was appropriate, there were a lot of people that were cynical. It was unjustified influence. I think, like I said, if we acknowledge it, then at least you know where you stand, right? Now, with regards to this particular discussion post, now this doesn't have actually anything to do with the content, but I noticed a number of one-word, one-sentence responses, and then whenever I saw that happening, it wasn't a lot. I mean, most of you guys are writing up, tremendous amount, really weighty topics, and you're adding a lot to the conversation. I applaud you. Some, however, are coming in at the last second and putting a one-sentence response in there and expecting full credit. I think that's a disservice to everybody else that busted their hump, to really do their best, and then, this person comes in and says, "Oh, okay, well, I should get the same grade." I don't think that. I think that would be hard to argue. Here's what I did. I actually, when I observed that, I went back and I discovered the trends, and I usually the same people posting at the last second, whatever. So now I don't realize what your circumstances are, but here's the deal. I basically I have allowed you a lot of freedoms with regards to the discussion posts. I'm hoping for an organic discussion. I don't want to say you have to have 250 words. You have to, discuss this with 3 friends or whatever, that kind of stuff. I'm wanting you to jump in, and most of you have kind of met that challenge and, done it. That's great. Let me see. There's richness through the exchange of ideas, and that's what I'm shooting for. So remember that discussion posts, the grading on that are actually subjective. And so if you want to garner, top marks, then you need to produce, top quality posts. So you'll notice that anybody that's posted 1 or 2 sentences, whatever, you might not have garnered all the points. Just so you know, a little explanation as to why. Next activity, public role in policymaking. Similar to the interest group discussion that we had before, student preferences were reflected in the policies that they selected, right? When asked about public awareness or family and friends, that was actually one of the questions in there. What do you think? Are your family, are they aware of this particular topic that you selected? Think about it. Birds of a feather. You are influenced by your family. You have been throughout. Same with your friends. You usually surround yourself with friends, like-minded individuals. Not always. I mean, my mom and I are pretty much polar opposites when it comes to politics. Okay, so it's not always, the rule of thumb, but chances are you're going to find that those that are surrounding you are actually probably familiar with the topic you chose. You probably chose that topic because it appeals to you, probably appeals to you because it's always appealed to you in some way, shape, or form, and those people around you probably either had something to do with that, or at least they know who you are, and so therefore they're familiar with it. So just keep that in the back of your mind when you're thinking about the effectiveness of public role in policy making, whatever, right? What else do I have? Yeah, biases revealed. Okay, that's it. Next activity was state policies, comparison of the states, right? No, basically it's like identifying red states and blue states, Democrat, Republican, left-leaning, right-leaning. The problem is not with the characteristic of the states, okay? This was not the issue. I don't necessarily need to know this information. I'm not doing a study or anything else. Here's the thing. I found that some students, the question was, what was the question? Same-sex marriage. That's what it was. How many states, are okay with same-sex marriage? And it probably was poorly worded, so maybe that could explain some of the differences in the answers. But some students said very few allow. Some said 5, some said 12, some said all. So which is it, okay? This might be an exam question. You might want to kind of go in and make sure that you are able to ascertain accurate information from that site. It could be that I say, I want to know how many there are, just because there was no consistency with regards to that answer, okay? Show and tell, our next activity. How credible do you think the findings public opinion sites are? Raymond Rodriguez started out. He's the first to post. And by the way, Raymond, I like the way you format your post. So very thorough, very easy to read, top marks. He mentioned the manner by which the questions were worded. There you go, astute observation. I like that. And just like I pointed out, in the previous activity, maybe that explains a lot of the differences in the findings, right? Charles Major was one of the people to respond directly to Raymond, pointed out the lack of consistencies with regards to the topic. So, I was following your line of your logic. I was following how people were thinking and looking at this. That's what I'm shooting for with these activities. I want to see what you're doing. I want to see, okay, do you know where to find the information? And then do you know how to interpret the information and bring it back and synthesize it and apply that to the real world around you? So just, and no judgments. I just want you to know my political leanings, my whatever, this has nothing to do with you. If you're ultra right wing and I'm, on the other end of the spectrum, I'm not going to try and trip you up. I want you to succeed in doing whatever it is that you want to do. And in my defense, my thought is, as I help people to understand information, as we're doing policy analysis or whatever, maybe people will change on their own. But I'm not going to be the catalyst for that. I just want you to know. So the quiz. Now, did I finish up that actually? No, actually I didn't. Hold on. Back up. The show and tell again. Credibility of public opinion sites, right? I read that some students question the validity of the finding based on the methodology. At least a couple people said, how large the sample size was. This probably doesn't, accurately gauge public opinion, and therefore they expressed doubt in the findings of that public opinion poll. Okay, I would caution you. Let me add 2 comments, actually. I'll caution you, first of all, believe it or not, some surveys can actually ascertain the answer to these kind of questions based on a smaller sample size. It is a science. Going through my PhD program, it's amazing at how, sounds a basic word, right? In PhD, I'm talking about my PhD studies, and then I use a real childish word, right? Go for it. Don't tell anybody I teach college, right? To find how accurate social scientists can, discover information, it's something, the math that goes behind it. It's really something. So don't automatically discount the findings of these. It is certainly important to look at the methodology and top marks for that student. But don't always just automatically, discount the findings. But now let me tell you on the flip side, the perception, obviously the perception of this student was revealed, right? It said, hey, I don't know. I don't know if this is accurate or not. I can only imagine how many other people read that same study and think the same thing. So if you were to produce or offer up information, findings of a study, you want to probably be careful to explain that to people too. Otherwise, it's for naught, right? Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. That's methods question that's probably for PAD4034 Survey Research Methods. If you haven't taken it, take it. It's a wonderful class. Unfortunately, I don't teach it anymore. Anyway, quiz. For the most part, no outliers. You guys were pretty consistent on that, except for question number 2. The conflicts over the seating of a new Supreme Court justice and Obama and Trump's presidencies illustrate the challenges that are a result of blank. Your 4 choices were policy gridlock, personal grudges, divided government, bipartisanship. I could actually argue all 4 of those, be honest. I didn't create these questions. They were actually offered up by the publisher. That one, 5 people said policy gridlock. Okay, that makes sense. 36 of you said divided government, probably actually says it in the text, and therefore, that's 86% of you guys. And then 1 person actually said bipartisanship. Like I said, it wasn't clear. It was probably more reflective of, did you read this, not did you think about it? Sorry, my bad. Actually, I think a couple people actually contacted me about that, and so I offered up, credit for those that, got it wrong. I think I'll go ahead and I'll credit everybody with that particular question because it was vague. It was misleading. Anyway, in closing, I noticed there's a lot of zeros. Perhaps some of them are because you thought, oh, there's a truckload of work that we have to do, and therefore I just don't have time. As you can see, I tried to adjust the workload for you from Module 1 to Module 2 by, instead of saying answer every one of these questions, saying just answer this one and that one, maybe unburden you with some of that workload. You can still exchange the ideas with your fellow students, but whatever. Here's the deal. Go back. I've already finished all the grading for the first couple modules, except for the one that's active right now. Go back, look at your grades. If you've got zeros, do those activities. You can replace that 0 with a grade. You've got unlimited opportunities. Maybe not necessarily for full credit. That's not fair to those people that, like I said, busted hump to beat the deadline. But I would much rather you get at least partial credit than a 0. Matter of fact, I'm sure you would too. All in all, your grades are doing pretty well. There's some that, like I said, are really struggling because of the zeros, but that can be easily remedied. So anyway, I leave it to you. I think deadline on everything is October 11th, which is the day before the midterm opens. So if you're going to go back and do those, do them quick, okay? All right, see you next time.